Infinitum podcast. This is the mushroom theory into our host, the Fox, and I'm here with Jeremy guest Jeremy. Also, we have with us again.
Credentials to this time.
Yeah.
Heather Mcdonald. Hi, I'm a microbiologist with a bachelor's in microbiology from Colorado State University. Go Rams.
All right. So now that we got that out of the way, what's
French
first on a
fries.
memoranda? Panspermia.
Oh, yes, panspermia is really important. But before we do that, I have to finish telling you about French fries.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
I
Start
won't
with
let
French
it go.
fries.
Yeah, I got to earn my title.
This is great.
They call me Spuds now at work instead of the crazy potato lady. But it turns out, because I was worried about French fries, I'm like, oh God, we're taking this precious resource, this potato, and frying it up and losing nutrients. So I looked it up, right? I looked it up to be sure. Now, potatoes are rich in fiber and they're rich in potassium. These are the two nutrients that Americans lack the most. And so when you take the potato and you take it and you fry it, what it does is it creates this barrier instantly and locks in any vitamin C and potassium that's inside of this potato, right? Just locks it there. And so that's solidly not going anywhere. And then the outside of the potato that fries, the fibers actually become more durable and more difficult for you to break down, and that's better. In the fiber world, that's better. And so French fries are actually better if you minus all the fats and the oils
And salt.
carcinogens, the salts
Yeah.
as well. I believe that there's a way to handle French fries where they're totally perfectly healthy. And I literally, fried foods are such a delicacy. Everything in moderation, man. Everything in moderation.
Yeah, Bruce Lee had McDonald's once a week.
Hell yeah. Amen.
And that's what he said too.
Amen.
He said everything in moderation, including moderation. Sometimes you binge.
Of course.
Sometimes you indulge.
Well, I just did my once a year KFC. Everything in moderation. I freaking love KFC. I love the shit out of it. I don't know if now I can go back on a different day and go to the A&W side and not be breaking this rule.
It might be a loophole.
Panspermia. Let's go.
Yeah, so basically, I want to get a Google definition out here just so we can get it, but the overview was the same basis that we had for the Mushroom Theory podcast last time, but we just found out that there's a scientific name for it. All right, panspermia hypothesis state that seeds of life exist all over the universe and can be propagated through space from one location to another. For millennia, this idea has been a topic of philosophical debate. However, due to lack of any validation, it's remained merely speculative until a few decades ago. And then the article continues. But that's just a good definition for what the idea is and the credence that it's had for a long time. So maybe that can go to what you're saying too, that the mushrooms, since they're hyper variable and they can go to kind of any planet, that's just how they're manifesting here on Earth.
Yeah, this is how the mushroom has manifested here on Earth. This is how life has manifested here on Earth. Mm-hmm. In another circumstance, the carbon molecules aren't going to bind to the oxygen the same way if the temperatures are too high. And so just like the essence of life could exist in a gaseous being, somewhere else.
Or in the sun.
Or in the sun. In really a highly hot gaseous being. That has to be possible. We have to accept that even though we can't see how, almost anything that we can fathom is a possibility. We have to accept that.
Would that be the limit of cognition, would be our imaginations and our dreams?
The limits of cognition. What does that mean?
Like our ability to compute information. Like if our server had a top out point, they would be like, all right, we can do mathematics, we can do science, we can do all this stuff.
Can't possibly fathom.
But we can't go beyond our dreams. That's
okay.
the top of our ability to externalize our experience.
I don't know.
I have Carl Jung in here later, but Carl Jung does talk a lot about dreams, and he wrote a whole book about dreams and the collective unconsciousness, as well as archetypes that appear through stories and throughout history and time.
Yes, I believe that there is a place that we go. And I believe that we are seeing something that is very valid and very real when we're in these dream worlds. And I believe that that is a place where we are able to, without the limits of the material, manifest into reality. So, like lucid dreaming and
Yeah.
such. And you appeared to me after we had our last conversation last week, last Sunday. You showed up in my dream.
Oh yeah.
And I was in my spot.
Oh,
And
that one spot.
yeah, my spot that I go to.
I was
This
talking
is
to you
the
about.
spot.
Remember?
I have a spot, and it is a location, and it's different times in the same location. I've seen history happen here that I know has happened, but I've also seen futures and pasts. Epic.
How big is the location? Is it like a Doctor Who phone booth, or is it like a
It's like the
hotel in?
it's a bay now,
It's a
and
bay.
it would have been the top of a volcano
Mm.
a long time ago. And so it's the town I'm from. It's Santa Barbara. It's a little curve that the beach goes around in a curve like this, and the ocean swirls to the right always,
Nice.
and the air too. Yeah, it's the one of two places I guess in the world where it does this like perpetual. And ours is clockwise, and in Australia it goes the other way. Yeah,
That's cool.
freaking so I'm driving, and I don't often drive down this street. I'm often walking. And so driving, and I stop, and I look over, and you hop in the car. And I'm like, I don't know if we can do this. And I'm driving up this hill, and I'm like, this is the spot. This is the place. And I'm taking you to the mission. And the mission's a special spot. For a lot of reasons. And so I'm taking you to the Santa Barbara mission. And I'm like, I don't know if we could do this. And you gave me, out of your mouth, you gave me like a piece of metal. And it was like square, almost like a chip, but not very intricate or interesting. It was a metal square. Is that interesting to you?
That's weird.
Isn't it? And then I
Yeah.
woke up and I was like, that was so cool. Jeremy was there.
Yeah.
And you were like really there.
That's
And
funny.
so, yeah.
Remember that? That's how I met you. Remember? You come running up the truck.
Oh,
and
I did. I
it
came
was
running up
pouring
to
down
your
rain,
truck.
and I was sitting at the stop sign, and I look over, and she's over there, and she just comes running. She's like, "Are you Jeremy Ainsworth?" And I was like, "What the hell?" But yeah, from Facebook.
I saw his photograph on the Facebook.
Approximately, huh?
And I looked over and I was like,
It was
Jeremy Ainsworth.
pouring rain.
And yeah, dude, I was like, dude, give me a ride.
Maybe it was part of that. Did I jump in like that?
Yes, you really did. And it was as if I expected you, and it wasn't odd. And same within the dream.
Oh, it was definitely odd.
Yeah.
When I
You
when
know,
just
was
ran
it?
into you.
And
Yeah,
I
it was-
knew Jordan. You were with Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It was
yeah.
late,
I
too.
knew him.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And I
figured it
had
was
my
the truck.
my satchel of my belongings. And I was, yeah.
That's cool.
Good times.
Side
We're
note.
so like different from was the OG spermicide. The panspermia. Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right on. I remembered.
I guess we kind of already went over the mushroom theory, but I guess whatever else do you think differences between your ideas with it and what came through panspermia, or
Not
is that pretty much
much.
on the same?
You know,
Do you think
not
the mushrooms
much.
are the seeds of life that are scattered across the universe?
This theory came to me because of shared consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really feel like shared consciousness is a thing, and we see it in microbes. We see it in and they're communicating through things that we maybe have receptors for, but we don't utilize them, or we don't listen to those receptors, but they're communicating through chemokines, through little teeny pieces of chemicals, through what we would consider scents, but not necessarily pheromones. These are just a specific chemical that says something. And so they're communicating that way, but I believe that we can also communicate through an electricity or through a wave. And if you think about how waves travel and how it's not really atoms moving from me to you, I'm just going bump, and it bumps like the domino effect and hits you. And so this would be a very effective way to communicate long distance, close distance, in a lot of different ways. You could have very, very simple receptors that would pick up on that wave. And especially if you were small, you could pick up on an atom bouncing off of you, in a pattern with different forces. And so I started thinking about shared consciousness, and it led me to slime mold, and I just love slime mold anyway. And so if you really take a look at slime mold and the way they work together, it's almost like, and we can't find like the signal. Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're whatever, but whatever it is, they're just like boom, they all do the same thing. They get in line like a marching band, and they just do the same thing. And
It's
they
kind of randomly spread out at first, don't they?
yeah,
And
they're
then
like
they focus.
snot.
Yeah.
People say look for dog vomit. It's probably slime mold. and they're effectively like doing something, and I think that we can ask the slime mold to work with us really easily because they are that intelligent. We just have to figure out how they communicate, and they're probably trying to figure out the same thing about us.
Yeah.
They've appeared to us and have been like, look at what we do. and
You know a lot about slime mold? About how that experiment in Japan where they did the subway?
Yeah, we brought that up last
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah, that's like kind of it advanced to from where I'm thinking of it is just their ability to like, this is a single cell organism that presents like slime. And they found some down in Denver a while back, and it got me looking at it. And
It's a single cell.
I've always been afraid of the blob. Remember Elvira?
Yes.
And the blob was on. I love Elvira. She was like one of my superheroes growing up. And so the blob freaked me out. And so I see this slime mold. I'm like, it's the blob. I have to learn about it, so I'm not afraid of it. I was so kind of weirded out by it. And it might be here. Like, it could really easily be in this room listening to us. On the ceiling. And so they assemble together when they feel like it and turn into basically a slug. And then they cruise around
Move, yeah.
as a slug. Like, if you saw it, you'd be like, oh, it's a slug. Never would you be like, oh, it's dog vomit assembled as a slug. And they do it by, like, I guess they, like, all move together. But there's a bunch of different kinds of slime mold from a bunch of different species groups. And so it's a huge, it's not its own phylum. There's like different slime molds, like as if, Sufi mystics were one kind, and then like Christian mystics were another kind, or whatever. They all like eventually do this thing where they work together. And I think that these cells are communicating on a grander scale. But slime mold also turns into like a typical traditional mushroom, with the cap and the spores. And the spores are actually the gametes. I have to go see what that is.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's interesting. All right.
So wonderful. Are we recording
Fantastic.
this?
No, it just came back. It was just so
We're back.
no worries. The next point I have is evolutionary biology and the cycles that you think that creation goes through, like in terms of its manifestations as well as the evolution that it takes form in. Like maybe because of it, the whole planet was water. We started off as like the single-celled prokaryotes and then created like fish-like beings or whatever, and then swam around.
What do they call it?
And then
primordial soup.
And then when the earth was like raised up and there was like dry land beyond, then the mushrooms were like, let's go check it out. And then they evolved like legs. So evolution like could still stand within your theory, but it's like it didn't happen by accident. It was out of consciousness's curiosity to explore and understand the universe. And that's why we're constantly like going out, because we came from there, that we dropped here, and then ever since we were a single cell, we've created like a civilization to do that.
Hi, City. So evolution. So the things that drive evolution are environmental and chemical factors, and so that's what drives evolution.
Okay.
So environmental and changes to the environment and changes to the chemical situation that's in the world. And so, no matter what, evolution will happen in response to its environment. And so, if we zap something with radiation, it's going to cause, its DNA replication machinery to skip a beat, to miss a base pair, and glitch. And if that ends up being successful anyway with that glitch, then that glitch will carry on to the future generations. And so that's the way, like a zap of environmental factor happens to that DNA and will glitch it. That being said...
So it's more of an event than like an overtime, like trait selective.
Yes,
Okay.
It is overtime and trait selective.
Okay.
And that is how we observe it right now, but on a inside of your cellular level, like say you're a spore and all that's inside of you is DNA. That's what's happening. And so that happens to you all the time. You get zapped all the time. Radiation from the sun zaps you. And you have DNA repair machinery that... I have a tattoo of it. I'm really into this shit.
Okay,
It comes in, repairs, the part that's glitched out. And so it already has the copy right there. Here's your one strand, and then this strand is like, whoop, glitch. It's gonna... He loves throwing his stuff around.
I'm terrible with it.
Like a repairman?
It's gonna come along and fix it. On electron level, watching this machinery work is like, oh God, it's such nerd porn to me.
Proteins and
It's
endorphins?
so beautiful. If you look up,
Yeah, we watched the video.
I'll find you a video of it. On the electron level, watching this machinery work is fascinating. It's such beautiful work. And it really is pushing and pulling and tugging and working because of positive and negative attractions. But, oh God, it's put together like a fine-tuned clock. Like Swiss clock makers that were elves and dwarfs freaking put this together, and it just works. And so that's what it does. And it's created, like the whole process is created to change with the environment, and that will magnify and manifest as different phenotypes in the living being. And then the more successful ones will continue, and that glitch or lack of one will continue with them. And so it's not really like we're going to decide. It's like a lot of different things happen. The hypervariability of our DNA and the ability for it to glitch, the ability for it to rearrange, and it does have the ability to, like, DNA can, like, propeller out of its whole chromosome and move to a different spot and go back in. And that sort of technology, if you will, in the biological world is really, I think, what I'm seeing when I look at this fungal ability to, and also with viral ability to, insert themselves into a genome. And so we have to accept that that's a really natural thing. That's normal for things to be really, really hyper variable, to keep it in a soup, to keep any eventuality possible. And this goes back to any eventuality we've ever had. And so our DNA is like a long story of all these things that have happened environmentally and chemically to us. And as we learn how to read it, like there's these things called transposons. And the woman who discovered them, science said she was crazy, batshit crazy. Barbara McKenna, I think is her name. And she discovered that these DNA can, like little pieces of DNA that say something, that code for something, like specifically the color of corn in an era of variable corn. They can leave the chromosome, go to a different spot and reinsert, and then make it happen there as well. Okay? Express itself. And they thought she was crazy. Well, it turns out she wasn't. Now she has a really fancy lab and she doesn't talk to anybody. And I don't blame her. She's an amazing woman. Her research is groundbreaking. And to be shot down and to still believe in yourself is really important, because she was right. And to see these, they're called transposons, these little pieces that can just like go somewhere else. Causes a lot of variability in our species. And we have discovered that junk DNA, that's like all this DNA just codes for nothing. It fucking codes for transposons, mostly. And I saw that and I'm like, fuck. That means that at one point we were like super soupy. You know what I mean? In every kind of fucking variable. And we were just like randomly until something clicked. You know, it's like the passcode finder, and it's just spinning and spinning and spinning until something clicks. That's how it's working. As you know, something's bound to click if it's able to click. Yes. Oh, okay, cool. Keep an eye on him. He's sad. He's tired.
Transposons.
Transposons. Look up that shit.
And I was also looking at that DNA repair crew. It's pretty cool. It's like literally a handyman. A crew of handyman. They cruise up, like drive up your DNA, and they have the cartoon of it. Yeah.
Cartoon of it.
Yeah.
You gotta look at the actual images. There's people that have like on the electron scale, like mapped out these things happening, and you can watch it happen. It's called visual cell or something like that.
So that's very interesting that kind of the history of our evolution is coded within our DNA.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if I'm
Hardcore.
understanding that correctly.
Hardcore.
Okay.
And it will be there forever, and we're adding to it every
Yeah,
day.
our chain's always growing.
Yeah. And our fuck things we do to ourselves, like plastics and all this stuff, is changing our DNA and adding to that story.
Yeah.
And it's just basically keeping a record.
Mm-hmm.
We're just record keepers.
That's pretty cool. So can I turn into Hulk or no? Gamma rays.
Fuck, I just read about some rich guy that's having his DNA altered. And the company that's doing it is doing it, what is it, free of charge, I guess they say.
Sign this,
Yeah, I don't know what they call that when
They
you're
need the
like,
first super
hey,
villain,
I'd like
huh?
to try this out on you. He wants to live forever
Supervillain.
or re-experience his youth. He's already swapped blood with his 17-year-old son. I
Oh,
don't know
Brian
if you're gonna
Johnson?
love your
I
dad
know
and
him.
you're gonna come up
Gonna
with
give me
some
some
blood.
blood?
No, I'll hook you up with a good diet and fitness plan, but
No blood, huh?
we all gotta go.
Yeah.
Is that getting into
Adrenochrome?
Don't let him
No, I
take
don't
you
wanna
on a
open
submarine
that
adventure.
can
That's
of
the
worms.
one thing I've got to say about that.
Those guys are still living it up.
Dude,
Guaranteed.
that's what I
They're so
thought too.
fake.
I was like, they just escaped and we all watched.
They did. They're all sitting in the island somewhere. Their family goes and visits them probably still.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Don't mean to sidetrack, but that is crazy.
I'm like, why would you do that? If all you're going to do is watch the fucking monitor from inside the sub. Why would you do that?
Plus, you can't
Why'd
have
you
vessels
not
that don't go
send
through
this-
testing. They don't just let you send vessels down like that. I mean, that was a total setup. Like, quick, like, you're like, hey, let's piece this together real quick with this controller. And
It's all bloop.
video, yeah.
And they're in escape pods all pew.
And then they were pulling up. Did you see the pieces they were pulling up?
I did. I did see
Couldn't have
like,
existed because at the pressure, if it had imploded that much, there was big old chunks that weren't even touched. They just looked like somebody just put broken pieces down.
It did look like that.
Because if it crushed
and
that
I'm
much,
like, why
it would
didn't you
be.
see that right away if it was right there? It's like, that's right where you would look right away. It's right there.
Right. Right. But it would have vaporized
I don't
everything.
know. All I know is we all prayed for those poor people until they ran out of oxygen. That was really
Yeah.
sad.
That was distraction.
And just like with Bubble Boy, like if you put us through that shit and you're still alive, fuck you. Fuck you.
Bubble Boy.
You remember?
I do. Do you know about Bubble Boy?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Okay.
In the 90s?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
really right? I hope I know.
No, it wasn't the 90s. It was
Look it up.
later than that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Look it up.
was. I'm going
Or
to
earlier.
guess.
I'm a young buck, son.
Earlier.
2010.
No.
Yes.
No.
Oh, Price is
Bubble Boy.
right.
What's the over-under?
I got 2010.
That's the movie.
An American black comedy film directed by Blair
Yeah.
Hayes, starring Jake
Just
Gyllenhaal.
look
Say
up
the
that.
real dude.
The real
It was
Bubble Boy.
inspired by the
If the movie's 2001, of
The
course,
real Bubble Boy.
is before that.
Wasn't it like
No,
before
because that's a
Seinfeld
guy.
did it?
That's a
Seinfeld
guy
did
in
it.
the fucking bubble.
It's 40 years
I'm talking
later.
about
40
Balloon
years.
Boy.
Balloon Boy.
Yes.
Oh, the one that went up in
Yes.
the one that was down here in
So
Denver.
we're talking about a
the
different
wife
guy.
swap.
Yeah.
couple.
This guy's got like a tragic illness. He
Yeah.
has like
1984.
immunocompromised.
Yeah, 84.
But I'm talking about the kid that was supposedly in the balloon.
Yeah. Did you know about that? The dad, I guess, was some, I don't know, wannabe, huh? And
Hey,
they
this
were
got
on, like-
hella sidetracked.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
know, but it's worth it. I know what you're talking about.
And they're like,
I'll
oh
look it up. Go
no,
ahead.
our boy has climbed into this atmospheric testing balloon.
Yeah, that
and
we happen
is
to have
floating
here.
away over Fort Collins.
And-
And the whole goddamn posse came and it's all over national news. This fucking 6-year-old boy is in this
Yes.
goddamn balloon and we're all praying. And he was like over the park here, Spring Canyon. Yeah. And I was
Balloon
trying
boy.
to study for OChem test and I fucking failed that goddamn test because of that stupid kid and it was all a
You were
hoax.
heartbroken.
It was all a hoax.
I'm sorry.
He
Uh-huh.
was,
You
yeah,
don't-
he
so
was
you know
hiding
not,
in the.
You know now not to trust the government and the media.
Oh, I don't. I try not to.
There's no
you
reason.
have to do your own research. You have to.
Absolutely.
And you have to research your research and check your sources. You have to be able to cite your sources.
The reason it's called research is because you don't just look out, hear the first answer, and say that's fact. You research because you keep asking the question and seeing what the variable answers are.
This is true. This is true.
But I did make a joke with my professor. I was like, if it's the first time we're looking this shit up, how come it's research? I never heard of this before.
Yeah, right?
This is just searching for me.
It's not research. Yeah, that's funny.
But I guess kind of going off of that, but
You
getting
can read this?
yeah,
Oh,
my
jeez.
handwriting's been the same since first grade.
Oh, for God's sakes. That's cool.
So Christian mysticism is like kind of a way that I think we can go because we were talking about Jesus and the mushrooms a little bit, but it kind of got cut off last pod. So
Oh, yeah. I kind of don't really subscribe to drug use being necessary for these experiences to be valid. I was talking to one of my friends just yesterday about how maybe perhaps the mushrooms are able to sever the wall that we create between us. And so maybe by taking these mushrooms, they're able to somehow disassemble that barrier that we create that that is between our ability to communicate without words, just with vibration, just with our energy field. And there's these monks that manipulate the drops of water into different shapes and patterns with their energy, and you could send love energy and it will be perfect shape, and you could be angry at it and it will be disassembled. Okay, that's a vibrational change, and it's physically affecting the physical molecules of this item. And now why can't we physically feel a vibrational change? And we can. And we need to somehow develop those receptors, somehow be able to physically hear.
shit.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. that basil emotion, it will bring
Mm.
it all. and you